Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and This Day Live begins now. The Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, and Africa's most influential network of legal practitioners, elects first non-senior advocate of Nigeria as president in more than 30 years. Several members view this as a paradigm shift. And ominous clouds gather over the September 19 governorship election in Edo State in South Nigeria, as the crisis over the State House of Assembly takes a turn for the worse.
It started.
Well, I'd like to welcome today's panelists. We have the regulars, Professor BOLA AKINTERINWA, Director General, Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, YEMI ADAMOLEKUN, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and CHIKE OGEAH, former Commissioner of Information in Edo State. But before we bring in the panelists, let's take a look at the development in the Nigerian Bar Association. The legal practice in Nigeria has no doubt come a long way. Though over 150 years old, it was only in 1933 that the Nigerian Bar Association was founded as the umbrella body of all lawyers admitted to the bar in Nigeria. But in recent years, elections into its national executive offices have been riddled with controversy and sometimes dissent. This year's poll was about to follow a similar path when a senior advocate of Nigeria, Adegboyega, expressed the view that the leadership of the association must come from the inner bar, comprising senior advocates, to the exclusion of the outer bar. However, the national elections of the Nigerian Bar Association has come and gone, with Mr. Olumide Akpata carving his name in history as the first non-senior advocate of Nigeria to become president of the association since 1989. But while the public and many members of the legal profession celebrated the emergence of a young, dynamic member of the outer bar as president, there are a few members of the legal profession who were clearly dissatisfied with the outcome of the poll. Well, Mr. Akpata, a law graduate of the University of Benin, former chairman of the MBA section on business law, and a senior partner at the law firm Templars, is here to discuss his victory at the polls. I intend to reach out to dissenting members of the association, his campaign promises on improving the welfare of Nigerian lawyers, leading the Nigerian Bar Association in the enforcement of human rights, and reviving legal activism in the country. Welcome to the show, Olumide Akpata, President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you for joining us on This Day Live.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you so much for having me on the program today. I am honored and I am privileged.
Well, first of all, let us congratulate you on your emergence in an historical manner as President of the Nigerian Bar Association. Many people have interpreted this to mean that the outer bar has spoken, and that young lawyers have also spoken, and there is the inner bar that seems to have lost out in this matter. But in any case, congratulations. But let me ask you straight up, for the benefit of our viewers, what are your plans for the Nigerian Bar Association?
Well, thank you, Ruben. In terms, talking about plans, there are many. During the campaigns, I issued a manifesto that ran into nearly 40 pages, and those who know me know that every word I utter, every word I speak in this regard, I intend to implement every action point that we put in the manifesto. But what is more important to me is that at the end of the day, I need to leave the legal profession much better than I have found it. One thing that really bothers me is the fact that as a profession, we are punching way below our weight category. As a profession which exists within the largest economy in Africa, we have boxed ourselves into a very narrow corner. And at the end of the day, I don't think we are giving optimum service to this economy and to those who make up the economy. So I think one of the things that will be important is ensuring that there's capacity building, enough of capacity building to ensure that our lawyers can actually take ownership of this space and ensure that we, the Nigerian lawyers, can actually provide service to the Nigerian economy. So that is one major issue. And you will find out that most of the programs that we have enunciated, most of the programs that we intend to implement are really focused or are geared towards that point to make sure that we have a more effective, a more efficient legal profession, one that can actually stand its own. And when I say this, the point really is that I don't think enough attention has been paid to the entire economy and our ability to service the economy. We are churning out 5,000 to 6,000 lawyers every year. Most of them are trained in one direction. And most of them are trained to be litigators or to be dispute resolution experts, which of itself is a good thing. But in that process, what we have not done is to also train lawyers who can deal with other aspects of the legal profession in Nigeria. So I would hope that in 2022, by the grace of God, when I exit the stage, we would leave behind a more robust, a well-rounded profession, punching at the highest weight category and delivering effective and optimum service at all levels. That is essentially what we are trying to do, hoping to achieve.
Well, I mean, one major issue in the just concluded presidential polls of the NBA is this division between the inner bar and the outer bar. And we have seen supporters of Daily Additional SAN under the umbrella of a group called DASAN, raising questions about the integrity of the process that threw you up as president of the NBA. Others have also spoken up, including Femi Falana, SAN, complaining about electoral fraud. Now, what do we intend to do to unify the bar, to go over these differences and to ensure that in 2022, the integrity of the electoral system within the NBA will have been improved upon?
Well, the good thing about it, Ruben, is that I am not an outsider. I am very, very much at home and very familiar with all the players and all the actors. And I have indeed started to reach out to all of them and to ensure that we come together and we work together to ensure that we do better on all fronts, including in electioneering. And I think that is what is most important. For those who cast aspersions on the process, I have always said that I was the only candidate on record who personally wrote to the Electoral Committee of the NBA twice, calling them out on aspects of the process that I thought were not being handled properly, or that were less than desirable in terms of the way those aspects of the process were characterized and presented to us, the electorate. And I'm happy to say that a number of the points that I raised to the ECMBA were addressed, and we went into the elections reasonably satisfied that all was well and all will be well. And the outcome of the election, as far as I'm concerned, is a reflection essentially of the will of the Nigerian lawyers. So having done that, the next thing would be to make sure that we do better. And I think it's not rocket science as far as motives are pure, as far as nobody is attempting to work from answer to question, as far as we all agree to be transparent and not opaque in the way we approach the issue of electioneering, as far as we embrace technology and all that it affords us, it should not be a problem. And the guarantee and the commitment that I have made to Nigerian lawyers is that we will have in 2022, and indeed in other elections in the association that come up before that time, we will have transparent, free, fair, and credible elections. And from day one, we will we will put in place an electoral reform committee that will fix all of the issues that were raised. And for me, I think that is what that is the only thing we can do. There's no effort that involves humans that can be perfect. So we must always strive to do better. I come to the table with that mindset. We must do better, and that will be my intention. I have spoken with Dr. Ajibade, who is a very good friend of mine, who was the first runner-up in terms of the election results, and we have agreed to work together. And I have reached out to Akindele Additional, and I am sure that we'll be speaking very soon, and I'm sure we will come to the table with the intention to fix our bar and ensure that the legal profession is the better off as a result of the collaboration between all three of us.
Well, young lawyers see you as their candidate, and they consider your victory their victory. And in this regard, the major issue for young lawyers is about welfare, because one of your campaign issues was that you will look into the welfare of lawyers, young lawyers particularly, who get just starvation wages in many law firms. How do you intend to address this to meet the expectations of young lawyers? Is there a mechanism in place, or do you intend to create a mechanism for addressing the concerns and the expectations of younger lawyers who are asking for better welfare?
Well, it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. Yes, the main issue is welfare at the moment, but there's what we call cause and effect. There's a reason why we are where we are. So while the intention is to ensure that every lawyer in Nigeria earns a living wage, and we have processes that we are going to put in place to ensure that we achieve that, we also need to ensure that every lawyer in Nigeria receives the kind of training that he would require or she would require to ensure that he or she is employable and he or she can attract good remuneration, reasonable remuneration. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have studied the process. I have been running my own law firm for close to 25 years. And the problem really is that it stems from the kind of training we give our lawyers. So at the end of the day, they come to the job market not very employable and not holding much value in terms of how much they will earn. So we need to train them better. But having said that, we must also ensure that those who are in the job market already earn a living wage. And the NBA will be at the forefront of ensuring that all those who employ lawyers, you must pay them a living wage. Otherwise, then you are better not be employing them. I realize, and as does my team, that the issue of remuneration is one that borders on contract. So I do not pretend I do not come to the table telling you that we have a fiat or we have a silver bullet that we will use to ensure that everybody pays a certain wage. No, but there are ways and means of ensuring compliance with regard to our members, those who employ lawyers. Ways and means of entering into alternative business arrangements whereby lawyers can be allowed to do more than one thing so that they can augment income. They can work with a law firm and be allowed to do other things so that they can earn better. There are ways and means of ensuring that our lawyers, not only when the working conditions are such that they're not subhuman. It even goes beyond salaries. It goes beyond how much they earn. It also comes, you'll be surprised that many lawyers work today without even contracts of employment. They have no contracts of employment. They work today without any terms of engagement being clearly spelled out. You'll be surprised to know that they don't even know what time of day, how long, what their working hours will be. So beyond that, we are very keen to ensure that the terms and conditions of our lawyers, particularly the young lawyers, are spelled out, are reasonable, are not subhuman. And yes, the young lawyers I know that they are relying on me because, as you know, Ruben, I started out as a young lawyer myself, not just as a young lawyer employee, as a young lawyer firm owner. My cousin and I set up our firm 25 years ago when we were in our 20s. So we have worn the shoe and we know where the shoe pinches. So that is the plan.
Well, I mean, it's good you talked about the training of lawyers, which is very important. And in the age of globalization, the practice of law has been grossly affected. Would the NBA, under your watch, be recommending, maybe perhaps to universities, to the law school, to see how the gaps between the teaching of substantive law and procedural law and the market, as it were, how the gaps can be addressed in terms of changes to the curriculum?
Oh, absolutely, Ruben. Absolutely. This is a message that I have been preaching for at least the last 10 years. And while I was chairman of the Nigeria Bar Association section on business law, this was always this formed the subject of discussion at most of our conferences. The disconnect between what we offer as in our legal curricula and what really is required in today's world, in contemporary Nigeria, and indeed in the world at large. So there is a disconnect, and you know, as part of our mandate as the Nigeria Bar Association, our constitution requires us to intervene in the system of legal education. And so at the level of the Council of Legal Education, the Nigerian Universities Commission, we intend to take up that role more aggressively in a way to a bit more, in a more result-oriented manner. We want to go and speak with those who are in charge of policy, in charge of regulating that space. The way we train our lawyers, as far as I am concerned, and many who agree with me, is the way we train them, they will not be able to compete in the world that is emerging. They will not be able to compete in the world that is emerging. They will not be able to compete even in this jurisdiction, speak less of competing outside of this jurisdiction. And in a world where Nigeria has signed up to the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, in a world that has become globalized, we cannot train lawyers in the way we are training them today. We must, even from the point of view of just commercial awareness, understanding that our job is to provide legal service to an economy. We need to teach our lawyers or our law students law in that, a law with that kind of slant. And the NBA has a major role to play. As you know, the Council of Legal Education is run by lawyers. The faculties of law in our universities run by lawyers, essentially. So I think we are well positioned. We have the influence, we have the gravitas to inject ourselves into that space and bring about the desired change, if indeed we are willing. It all boils down to will. It all boils down to recognizing that there is a problem, and then, and then taking steps to fix the problem. So yes, that is what we'll be doing.
Okay, let me take you up on a number of issues. First, the Nigerian Bar Association used to be a major organization within civil society. It was proactive at a time, but many are concerned that in recent years, the NBA has become very docile. What kind of NBA are we likely to see under your watch? Will it be an NBA that will stand up for the rule of law and that will provide leadership on key issues of the day? Because many people say, look, the NBA has not just become docile, it has become even part of the establishment, which was not the original image of the NBA that Nigerians knew.
Well, Ruben, I am hesitant to begin to tell you. I'd rather speak in action than in words, but just to say a few things. I'm sure you followed the NBA elections, and you saw the fervor, and you saw the way it was followed by other Nigerians, lawyers and non-lawyers alike. It wasn't by accident. Prepare, Ruben, and prepare Nigerians for a rejuvenated Nigeria Bar Association. Get ready for a bar association that will step up to the plate. Get ready for a bar association that will speak truth to power and to everyone else. Get ready for a bar association that will put our leaders, we will actually put them to task. We will put their feet to the fire. We will let them understand that we recognize our role in society, which is to speak on behalf of those who do not have a voice. And then that is what is in store. That is what you should expect. And I don't think it really should be difficult for anyone in this position to do, except, of course, the only problem is always the problem of self-interest. But many of us have sacrificed self-interest. Self-interest will not fetter any of those of us who are here. And let me speak for myself. Self-interest will not fetter me in terms of being able to stand for something. You know, as they say, if a man will not stand for something, he will fall for anything. And so you can rest assured that the NBA under my watch definitely will live up to the role that society expects of it. The NBA would go back, we would revert to the days when the NBA was there to speak for the people of Nigeria. But like I said, let us leave it at that. You know, talk is cheap. So I think it's important that we watch this space and begin to see and hold us accountable. You know, hold us accountable as we proceed, if indeed we do that which we say we will.
Well, many lawyers would like the Nigerian Bar Association to be involved one way or the other in the appointment of judges. At the moment, there are lawyers who are asking for a reform of the National Judicial Council and also the FJSC, the Federal Judicial Service Council, to create a situation whereby the CJN, Chief Justice of Nigeria, does not exercise overbearing powers over the appointment of judges. What's your take on this particular issue? Would you like to see a reform of the NJC and also the FJSC? And what kind of reform will you be recommending if you agree that a reform is necessary?
Well, Ruben, I'm not so sure. I think the current dispensation or the current regime that exists we can achieve our desired objectives even with the current dispensation. No system is perfect. I'm sure that there are reforms that are necessary or required, and we will intervene and we will bring suggestions in that regard. But even with the current dispensation that exists, if all the parties involved play their respective roles in the manner that they ought to, we will come out with a product, or we'll come out with an outcome that is good enough. So by this I mean the way those who have framed or those who put the laws in place have given responsibilities to various bodies. The NBA ought not to be a spectator in this process, and indeed the way the process is designed, the NBA is essentially not a spectator. So even before reforms, if the NBA does not abdicate, if the NBA actually steps up to the plate and insists on playing his role in the process, insists on ensuring that the process is followed to the letter. Judges being appointed ought to have their boxes that must be ticked with regard to qualification. If the NBA stands firm and refuses to allow for the process to be subverted, because as it is right now, Ruben, I can assure you that the NBA is, as of right, entitled to be in the room when these issues are being discussed. And indeed, the NBA has been in the room on all occasions. So I'm not quite sure if fixing the problem is actually by reforming reform the process. That is good, and that could help to make it better. But as it is right now, we need the NBA to be to keep its eye on the ball, to stay focused. It is only a certain type of people that should show up on the bench as judges or justices, and we all know. And if we do not allow for the process of appointment of judges and justices to become an opportunity for influence peddling and horse trading, I am sure we will have an outcome that everybody will reasonably be satisfied with. If we make the process transparent, if we follow the rules, if we insist that the rules are applied irrespective of who is involved, you know, it will work. The process can work.
Well, we have less than 2 minutes to go. Olumide Akpata, President NBA, but just before we go, I'd like you to comment on what is going on in your home state, Edo State, politically. How do you feel? I mean, about the same time that you emerged as president of the NBA, we're seeing a lot of lawlessness in the state that produced you.
Ruben, very quickly, can I mention that I'm the president-elect of the NBA. The president of the NBA is Paul Osoro, senior advocate of Nigeria, my big brother.
Well, we have president-elect on the screen, but you are already, as far as we are concerned, president of the NBA.
Yeah, so with regard to Edo State, my home state, many of us are hoping and praying that things will work out. As you can imagine, I am president-elect, we are apolitical, and so I cannot opine as to who the candidates of choice should be for the Edo people. But what is important is that I will encourage all the dramatists, the players, the dramatists personnel to stick to the rules, to play the game by the rules, and ensure that they keep at top of mind or front of mind. We should always be the best interest of the people, best interest of Edo State, best interest of our country. We are beginning to see some disturbing and warning signs, and one would really hope that those of you who have influence can pull them back.
Well, thank you very much, Olumide Akpata, President-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, for joining us today on This Day Live. Now, we'll take a short break here on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now with me in the studio, I have Professor BOLA AKINTERINWA, Director General, Bolytag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. YEMI ADAMOLEKUN, Executive Director, Enough is Enough. And of course, CHIKE OGEAH, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Well, CHIKE and YEMI, Prof was 70 yesterday. Professor AKINTERINWA was 70 years yesterday.
Happy birthday,
I don't know who has a good voice to just, wish him a special happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Prof. Happy birthday, Prof. God bless you. My voice is not that great, so I won't sing. But happy birthday.
Well,
thank you.
Professor AKINTERINWA, congratulations.
Yes.
May you see many more seasons.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We soon welcome all of you to the...
And thank you for your commitment,
yes,
and for your professionalism, and for your faith in Nigeria. In spite of everything, yes, I know you remain a patriot.
Indeed.
And you are very optimistic. Well, quickly, we all listen to Olumide Akpata, President-elect of the Nigerian Bar Association, who has been our guest today on this program. But I would like to start with you, CHIKE. I mean, you have been in legal practice for more than 30 years. And there were a number of issues raised by Olumide Akpata, issues about defending the rule of law, the welfare of young lawyers, unifying the bar, and ensuring that under his watch, when he finally assumes office, that the Nigerian Bar Association will live up to the expectations, not just of young lawyers, but every citizen who looks up to that association. What do you think?
Well, let me congratulate Prof first, because I wasn't even hearing you. The audio wasn't good when you were congratulating him. I didn't know Prof was already 70. I thought Prof was 60. Congratulations, Prof.
Thank you.
Then I also want to congratulate Olumide because it was a great paradigm shift that had been achieved with his elections. And I think it's a great thing that a young, vibrant lawyer has taken over the bar. Well, if you listen to what Olumide said, it was clear that he has a mindset, a 21st century mindset that he wants to bring to the table, which I think is the most important thing. He kept on saying a few things. Like he said, not all the systems are broken. It's just about the dramatic personnel, as he said, and the intent, the mens rea of what you come to the table with. And if he comes with a clear mind, I still remember one of the most vibrant bar associations the NBA ever witnessed was under the era of a non-son. It was Alao Akabashon, if I recall. He wasn't even a son. So being a son or not being a son, I don't even think that dichotomy should be involved, because some lawyers, very, very senior lawyers, I have a lawyer who trained me, Mr. Jide Ogundikpe, for instance. He's one of the best lawyers Nigeria has ever produced. But he's not a son, maybe because he's more interested in solicitor's work. So I have many friends like that who going to court is not really their thing. And so that shouldn't even be an issue. I think what Olumide should do, which from what I've heard him say today, is to go forward with all those people-oriented things he talked about.
I should be looking that way.
How can lawyers be working in present-day Nigeria without terms of contract, without terms of engagement? And many of them, you need to see the kind of conditions where they are meant to operate, aside from the non-living wages at the end as salaries. So those are the kind of things I think the NBA should do. Obviously, he spoke a bit about speaking truth to power, which I think is very, very, very important. I know Olumide to be from the right kind of family background where he shouldn't have a problem with that. And if he does, a lot of people will be disappointed in him, you know. So I think this is looking good for the bar. And everything being equal, I should see a situation where we will start seeing a much more vibrant Nigerian bar, where lawyers would engage creditably with the system and not, you know, get themselves entangled in the kind of things we were seeing lately, when even, you know, people who were supposed to be custodians of the bar were being indicted for different kinds of things.
Well, Yemi, one of the issues I raised with Olumide Akpata was about the role of the NBA in society. And it's good that CHIKE referred to Alao Akabashonu, who was, as you know, a very dynamic president of the NBA in his time. But over the years, we have seen the NBA becoming docile, lily-livered, and I'd asked him the question, are we likely to see a more dynamic NBA? And he gave that assurance. You are in civil society, very active. Enough is enough. What do you think the NBA should do in the face of the current challenges that Nigeria faces? What kind of NBA would you like to see going forward?
Thank you. Again, congratulations to Olumide Akpata. I think, unfortunately, for someone like Tunde Ajibade, who got caught in the SAN, non-SAN dichotomy, he came out very clearly to say that he doesn't believe that it's an exclusive preserve of SENs. But as you've also rightly said, Olumide was likely or showed to be the candidate of younger lawyers. And if our demographic as a country is anything to go by, there are a lot more of them. But having said that, I think the protest, for example, of August 5th is a good context for this conversation about the role of the NBA. And already now, even because it represents a young voice within the ranks of those young lawyers and others, there's already been the discussion around, if you, based on what you've said and what you say you want to do, this type of thing has happened. For those who might not be aware, August 5th marked 1 year since the Revolution Now protest. There was a protest to commemorate the event, and the DSS, police, soldiers beat up citizens, arrested citizens in Abuja, Lagos, Osogbo. A young man called Mandate, who was arrested with Showore last year, was also arrested again, and he was just released, fortunately, today. So he's already been challenged around what will the NBA say, what would the new NBA say. But as he said he's a man of few words and he'd rather act, and that's the action that citizens are waiting for. But overall, I believe as an institution, lawyers should just really be on the side of justice, on the side of the rule of law. This is an administration that talks about the rule of law, quote unquote, as one of the things that they stand by, but we've seen it flouted over and over again. From court orders that are not obeyed. Showore was granted bail 3 different times by a court in this country before finally the judge, well, civil society gave an ultimatum, and then a judge gave, in a sense, an ultimatum that DSS will be found in contempt. But we need judges and lawyers to step up and show that obeying the law and obeying the institution, the judiciary as an institution, is non-negotiable. And unfortunately, for that to happen, lawyers must also call themselves out. Must call themselves out when judgments are given underhandedly that are not in line with the law, when judgments are procured, as we like to say, as it relates either motions for elections or whatever. You just find out a court in Abuja will say something, another court in Abuja will say something else, because depending on where you're, actually, no, a court in Abuja will say something, a court in Rivers will say something else. depending on who you are and where you can, quote unquote, procure a judgment. So lawyers need to step up, and I look forward to the NBA actually calling its members out when they do things that do not support the rule of law.
Well, lawyers, by their training and by the rules of the engagement, are expected to be officers in the temple of justice. But YEMI has reached a point now about discipline,
Indeed.
about decorum in the practice of law. But, Prof, what's your reaction to the various points made by Olumide Akpata?
Well, I think there are 3 quick points. The first point is to give the reasons as to why Olumide Akpata should be specially commended. Nigeria should not just be seen as fantastically corrupt, but this time he won fantastically. Now, the number of votes, as we were told, you know, he had 54.3% of the votes. That is 9,851 votes. Now, the 2 runners-up, we have Babatunde Ajibade accounting for 4,310 votes. That is 23.8%. Dele Adesina had 3,968 votes, representing 21.9%. If you add the votes of Ajibade and Adesina together, that will give you 8,278 votes. Meaning now that the other contestants, the male contestants, their votes put together, please, he still beat, them. That is, if you talk about rigging, this is far from rigging. The issue now is that the voting is not for Olumide Akpata. The vote itself, the support is actually for what he represents. That's change of paradigm. The second point is that Olumide Akpata talked about capacity building. He reminded us of the fact that we produce 6,000 lawyers every year. But most of them, if not all, are trained along litigation. They are litigators. And they are trained along dispute resolutions. But it's not talking about the need to go beyond that level. There is the need to diversify, to become professionals in different areas in order for them to have this question you raised in the area of welfare, that they are not just limited to litigation, to seeking resolution of disputes. I think it is quite good. I noted that one as very, very important. The third point there, you see, he looked at discipline, the way you raise it, in a different context. That is, when we are talking about survival of the lawyers in the 21st century, they need to adapt, prepare themselves to be able, to grapple with the problems that will be thrown up with globalization. So he's preparing the lawyers, young lawyers you are saying, including the old lawyers too. You see, if you don't keep yourself abreast about the currency of international developments, then you will be finding yourself, most unfortunately, at the backseat level. So those 3 points, I would say, should give us a new hope. So precisely in the context of being in the context of being in the temple of justice, if they do not behave and present themselves in such a way that we can see credibility, integrity, a source of hope, I think the election will have amounted to naught.
Well, on that note, Prof. YEMI and CHIKE, let's take the next topic, which is Edo State. With the Edo State governorship election around the corner, the crisis that rocked the State House of Assembly over a year ago returned to the front burner last week. It all started when the Deputy Speaker of the Assembly, Yekini Idiaye, was impeached for declaring support for the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Pastor Osage Ize Iyamo. But that action was met with a swift reaction the next day when 17 lawmakers of the APC reportedly impeached the Speaker, Frank OGEAH, and his new deputy and elected a new one. The counter-impeachment, which took place at an undisclosed location and with the open support of the Nigeria Police Force, occurred after the state governor, Godwin Obaseki of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has shut down the premises of the State Assembly for supposed renovation. According to the governor's spokesman, Crusoe Osage, the action had to be taken to stop policemen who had allegedly been deployed to the state from Abuja from taking over the State Assembly complex, which was under renovation. He suggested that the policemen were there to do the bidding of Obaseki's predecessor in office, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, who is leading the Ize Iyamu campaign and enjoys the support of the 17 lawmakers in his bid to ensure Obaseki is not re-elected. But in another twist, OGEAH was left with only 6 other lawmakers of the 24-member assembly, said he and his co-traveler had unrestricted access to the assembly complex. With the confusion galore that has now befallen the Edo State House of Assembly and political gladiators fighting to upend one another in the run-up to the governorship election, many observers, including the United States Embassy in Nigeria, have expressed concern over the turn of events in the state. Many warn that if care is not taken, the crisis could snowball into conflagration, reminiscent of the deadly riots that took place in the Western region in 1962 and in Edo State in 1983. Well, Yemi, you have been watching the electoral process in Nigeria very closely. What are your concerns about what appears to be the reign of rascality in Edo State in the lead-up to the September 19 gubernatorial election?
Thank you. Just a quick point on the NBA elections. I think it's also commendable on Mr. Akpata, who, like President Yar'Adua, when there were issues around his election, has said that he's put a committee together to review what were issues flagged to improve the electoral process within the NBA. Moving on to Edo, I'm not sure that we should be surprised, quite honestly. But I think underlying that I find interesting is the consistent use of state resources to enforce the said rascality that you reference. So while Governor Obaseki is partially responsible for the crisis that we have in Edo at the moment, because it was while he was still within the APC that he refused some members of the National Assembly from being sworn in. And these are the same now members who are now sort of determined to impeach him. But the fact that a former sitting governor, who, as the governors are wont to say, they don't have control over state apparatus, i.e. the police, because he's now in a different party, a man who is in opposition because he's in the governing party of the country is able to get police deployed to his state to basically enforce, support these said members of the National Assembly. So that's one in terms of state power. And then secondly, the comments from both parties. I've heard and I watched a clip of Obaseki say, if it's violence they want, we will give them violence. Now, a sitting governor should not be saying that under any circumstance. He then followed that by saying that he and his deputy are the only ones who have immunity. So you've inadvertently said, I will do what I can, unleash violence if I have to, and because I have immunity, I will be protected. Former Governor Oshiomhole also said the same thing. Basically said, if you want violence, we will give you violence. And then the candidate of the APC, who, for very interesting reasons, people like to put pastor in front of the name, actually find that quite disrespectful of the office. He is not running as governor of Edo State as a pastor. He's running as Ise Iyamu, period. A pastor is an office he wears when he is in the context of his religious calling. But his pastoral calling has nothing to do with the fact that he's running for office and the kinds of things that are coming out of his mouth around violence, around his boys. I saw a clip of him campaigning and said, when you get to a polling unit, you will take yourselves there, you will show yourselves. So, sort of a final point, I'd prefer that they really stop calling him a pastor, because subconsciously there's a point that's being made, but it's not necessary.
Okay, quickly, I'll take Prof, and then CHIKE OGEAH will come to you immediately after Prof. Prof? Edo State politics.
Let me begin with disagreement to agree with YEMI. At the level of disagreement, he doesn't believe that a governor should be talking in terms of violence for violence. I don't share that view. The issue is that if, for instance, the federal government is de facto using violence, imposing, why wouldn't a sitting governor now say, okay, if you want to come in with the idea of use of violence, we will be there to also confront you. It's a question of order and counter order. And the outcome of that one is not only an encounter, but disorder. Mm-hmm. So order and counter order will amount to disorder if you don't manage the encounter very well.
And death, likely.
Yes, whatever is the outcome there.
Because we want to vote.
No, hold on. Why will... The issue now is that Obaseki is only reacting. He's reacting. And you see, in Nigeria, if you want to get anything done, the way God created every Nigerian here is not just a simple, ordinary human being. No. The Francophones, for instance, their nature is always complying. They accept whatever you give them. But the Nigerian man, the Nigerian woman doesn't accept, just say, go and do this, go and sit down. No. The Nigerian man will want to be sufficiently convinced that he has to sit down. Now, in terms of agreement with you, it's at the level of the use of pastor. Mm. When you say you are a pastor, you are in politics, the word pastor has the factor of godliness in it. Mm. Dignity, respectability.
Integrity.
Integrity. Mm. Now, you are accused of, misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. And you say you are pastor. You are bringing indignity,
to the office.
To the office. So in this case, I want to believe that the way politics is carried out in Edo State for now, we need to tell them that, look, they should be prepared to bear the brunt for the consequences on both sides.
Well, CHIKE, let me come to you. I mean, Edo State is just next door to your own state. What's your take on the do-or-die politics that we seem to be witnessing in Edo State at the moment?
Yeah, it's a big pity because, Edo used to be part of the old Bendel, and that's my state. In fact, those institutions that are being desecrated in Edo right now, every time I see images of it, my heart bleeds. For instance, on that state assembly, I don't know whether you saw boldly written there, Chief Anthony Nahoro House. That is the symbol there. Also, the great Chief Dennis Osadebe, the first premier of Midwest region, the government house is named after him in Benin. And these were great patriots, and I'm sure they will practically be turning in their graves right now. But the truth is that in Edo, we are seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a comedy of errors. And if, like lawyers tend to do, we want to go to where the original sin was committed before all these other kind of atrocities that are being committed on a daily basis by both sides are going on, you start wondering why on earth should a governor swear in an assembly and make his proclamation in the dead of night and all of that. Then you go ahead, you swear in 10 people out of a 24-man assembly. Now, that, I think, was the recipe for everything we are seeing here now. Because already one major arm of government has already been subjugated, so to speak. Now, what happened to those 14 people? Why could they not sit in Edo State and resolve it? Then they take off and go to Abuja, where their own supposed godfather is, and deny their people representation for 180 days or so. So when you have that kind of recipe, why should anybody be surprised about what is going on now? Because there is so much so much injustice, so much inequity, all kinds of brigandage. It's just going on in Edo State. And it has been going on uninhibited all this time. Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to want to call anybody to order. Everybody is digging in their own place. And what we are seeing is this. And the truth is that if these signs, like they say, the morning shows the day, we are all joking with major danger ahead. Because if these guys go into this election with this kind of do or die attitude that both sides are exhibiting, I wonder what will be the outcome of the election. Now, like we always ask, and that always is the final summation in all of this, you ask that big question: where are the people in all of this? They are nowhere. That is the truth.
Well, Prof, just before we go, we have just about 2 minutes left. Should we worry about September 19? Do you suspect or imagine that there will be violence in Edo State? And what should be done to prevent the outbreak of violence or a blowout in Edo State?
September is still far away. It's most likely people can come together and still find a common entente, find solution to it. But a stitch in time saves nine, as we are told. So what I would recommend is simply that, look, let the leaders at least have eyes that see, ears that can hear, and then look at the wishes of the people, that they don't want violence. They want a free and fair election in such a way that it will be better for a united Nigeria that will be completely free from political chicanery.
Well, Yemi, are you as optimistic as Prof that there can still be improvement before September 19?
No, actually, I'm not. And on that note, I actually agree with INEC, and not agree, but I like that INEC has made a strong statement that if there's a breakout of violence during the elections, that they will stop the elections. And I actually look forward to INEC making good on its threat.
Well, I hope INEC will not, on the basis of all of this, come around and declare the election inconclusive. Because that seems to be the CHIKE, last word.
And the lawyers will have more work.
The last word.
Well, I will implore both sides to pull back from the brink, because we all know that violence obviously gives nothing, in return but destruction and death. And these are very, very well-educated and seasoned people, the governor there, the candidate on the other side as well, the candidate of the PDP. So I think they should bring that. They are both Benin indigenes, and even maybe there might be a role for the traditional institution, the revered Oba of Benin might call both of them and have a word with them and say to him, don't destroy my citizens, don't destroy my city.
Yes,
I think,
absolutely. Yes, you are quite right on that note. Thank you very much, CHIKE. Thank you, Yemi, and thank you, Prof. Congratulations once again on your 70th birthday.
Indeed.
You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. See you next Sunday.